To all my brothers, yo, Shema, Allah Tabashini, shout out all my sisters. With the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Started out at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. We've been teaching that so-called Negroes, so-called Hispanics, and so-called Native Indians are the Lord's chosen people according to the Bible. We've been teaching that we are the real Jews that the Bible speaks of since 1969 under Commanding General Yohana. Today is the history class for Boston every Monday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Before we get started, we're going to go over Samson today, and we're specifically going to go in on what his purpose was and how he delivered Israel or his people from their enemies, and how, the spirit that Samson had on him was most definitely the spirit of the Lord. And when you have the spirit of the Lord, you don't necessarily value your life, and you're willing to sacrifice your life for the embetterment of your people. And that right there is the spirit of a true man that serves the Most High. So we need to really analyze our situation today in Babylon. And we need to analyze how we look at our lives. You know what I mean? And what we're willing to do for the embetterment of our people. And most people need to understand one thing, that sometimes it takes a man to sacrifice his life so that his people can be delivered. You know what I mean? Throughout American history, there's been many martyrs. But those martyrs, as people would claim, were not following the will of the Most High. And many of those men that have died for whatever cause, whatever movement, it did not substantiate what the Most High had purposed in regards to a man delivering his people from their enemies. And this is what it's always been about. Every time that we went into captivity, the Lord needed to send a deliverer or a savior. And so we're definitely going to dive into Samson. Samson is one of the prime examples of the Lord sending a deliverer for each time that we've gone into captivity. But with that said, let's get the questions out the way. Let's get the questions first. Questions online. We're gonna read the 4 chapters in Samson. We're gonna go through all 4 chapters and pull up some precepts. But you checking the restring?
Yeah, nothing yet.
What's that in the background?
It's the little Restream logo.
Okay, come. We'll give it another minute for any questions. Let me blast this off on the screen so we know that we're recording. Channel. We'll have that blasting in the background real quick. Now, there we go. All right, we'll give it another sec before we get started. Keep in mind, these history classes, they're very important. Whether we're talking about biblical history, ancient history, recent history, very important because a lot of it repeats itself. You know what I mean? Being under our oppressor's foot should have woken us up, but it's quite clear that the UPK still, in spite of the COVID-19 pandemic that's going on, the UPK still has to go out there and convince the naysayers that the Lord is going to requite their service. You know what I mean? The Lord is going to want their loyalty. And people that are, that are looking forward to the sustainability of this kingdom are proven to be disloyal to the Most High. And the Lord is looking for men that will not bow their knees down to Baal. The Lord is looking for men that are going to reject the philosophies of our oppressor, of Babylon, and inject the spirit of Christ, which is something that our oppressor is trying to snuff daily. But with that, we're going to get started. Let's go to Judges chapter 14. Let's start at verse 1.
Judges.
Feel free, Salaki, feel free if you have any questions in between, on or off topic, feel free to inject at any time. But go ahead.
Judges chapter 14, verse 1. And Samson went down to Timnah and saw a woman in...
No, Judge Salaki. Start at 13.
Judges chapter 13, verse 1.
Go ahead.
And the children of Israel did evil again in the sight of the Lord.
Now, the children of Israel did evil again. That's the key word. And it's something that we've been doing time after time, is doing evil in the sight of the Lord. And there's consequences. Now, keep in mind, the Lord judges us as a whole, right? He judges nations. And in particular, Israel is the nation that he chose. And he gave us a decree as to what will happen if we obey him, and what will and the consequences of disobeying him. So when we jump into Deuteronomy chapter 28, he's given through Moses the children of Israel two options. And those two options is something that we have to consider today. Give me Deuteronomy 28 and 1 real quick. And let's hear what those two options are real quick.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 1.
Right?
Salaki. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord.
Now, to hearken diligently, meaning you have to do this with all your might, all your efforts, to diligently listen. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people like to do a lot of yapping. A lot of people like to yap their mouth a lot. And a person can never learn if they're always talking.
Con.
The one thing I've learned coming into UPK that I took to heart, and I said, this is a wise saying, is when men who are greater than I have instructed me to keep my mouth shut. To shut my goddamn mouth and listen. And that's one of the wisest things I've ever heard. You know why? Because a fool will run his mouth when he has no knowledge, right? But if you humble yourself and you can convince yourself that you don't know a goddamn thing, then the best thing you can do is listen. And this is what they are told to do, is to hearken diligently. Go ahead.
Count out on count. Unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day.
Not only to observe his commandments, right? But to do all his commandments. Go ahead.
Count out on one count. That the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth.
And will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. You see, during the time of Samson, the children of Israel were in captivity under the Philistines. The reason why they were in captivity under the Philistines is because they did not observe, nor did they do all the commandments that Moses gave them to do, which is the reason why they ended up in captivity. Keep reading.
Count out on one count. Verse 2. And all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee.
Right? So now jump to verse 15.
Verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God,
Go ahead.
to observe, to do all his commandments.
Some of his commandments.
All his commandments.
See how extent that is? He said all his commandments. You know what I'm saying? Meaning you can't omit the minor things that you think is minor. You can't do that. You have to submit to all his commandments. You have to observe and do all of it. Not some. Not that's in the past. Not not my Jesus. Not none of that stuff. You can't do that. You see, the Lord said, I am, what did he say? I am the Most High. I change not. Right? The Lord ain't going to change. Right? You can't cater the Most High to your lust. It's not going to work. Which is what most Christians do. They cater a God that is accepting of their lust.
Con.
Keep reading.
Con out of one con. To observe, to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day. That all the
time Israel was in captivity, it's a curse from the Most High. Right? Being in captivity in America and in the Isles of the Caribbean and in South America and in Mexico is a curse from the Most High. That's the Most High cursing us. Right? But in the midst of those people that have oversighted the Most High's laws, that have dismissed the Most High's laws, there are men that have hearkened diligently. There are men that have sacrificed and said and kept their honor. And that's really what it is. You become very dishonorable when you don't live up to the standards of the Most High. You become a very dishonorable man, and I can guarantee you have no integrity when you break the laws of the Most High. I can guarantee you that. Go ahead.
Count out of one kind. And overtake thee. Verse 16.
Just like the blessings are that are gonna overtake you, the curses are gonna overtake you too. Now let's read. Let's go back to Judges. Now, the reason why we want to bring that up is because these are the two options the Lord gave you. Keep in mind, the Lord didn't make you a robot. He gave you options. He gave you a choice, right? Right? Isn't that what he did? He gave you a choice, right? He didn't just say, you know, he allowed you to choose life or death. And many of our people choose death. But go ahead.
Judges chapter 13, verse 1. And the children of Israel did evil again in the sight of the Lord.
Go ahead.
And the Lord delivered them into the hand of the Philistines 40 years.
And the Lord delivered them. And that's what he does, right? He delivers you into their hands, and then he also delivers you out of the hands of your enemies. Right? Vice versa. It goes both ways. Go ahead.
Verse 2. And there was a certain man of Zorah, of the family of the Danites, whose name was Manoah, and his wife was barren and bare not.
Go ahead.
And the angel of the Lord appeared unto the woman.
Oh, no. What did the angel do?
Appear unto the woman.
This sounds like some immaculate conception right here. Right? Go ahead. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto the woman. How many times have we heard these instances of the angel of the Lord appearing onto a woman and telling them that they're going to have a child?
Quite a few times, sir.
Now, how is it that when it comes to Christ, it's different?
Christianity, sir.
There it is. There it is. There it is. Catholic dogma, Christianity, right? There's been several times when an angel of the Lord has come onto a woman that's barren, that couldn't have children, right? He did it with Sarah. He did it with who else did the angel of the Lord come to? He did it with John the Baptist, right? Who else? He also did it with is it Elijah? He might have did it with Elijah too. But go ahead.
Verse 3. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto the woman and said unto her, Behold, now thou art barren, and bearest not, but thou shalt conceive, and bear a son.
Go ahead.
Now therefore beware, I pray thee, and drink not wine nor strong drink, and eat not any unclean thing.
Go ahead.
For lo, thou shalt conceive, and bear a son, and no razor shall come on his head, for the child shall be a Nazarite unto God from the womb.
So now, if you go to Numbers chapter 6, right? We'll go over the vow of a Nazarite, right? This is something that was delivered by Moses when it came to the vow of the Nazarite. Let's read that real quick. Numbers chapter 6
verse 1.
Verse
2. Check.
Verse 2.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I stuff it too. Count out of one count. Chapter 6. Numbers chapter 6, verse 2. Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, when either man or woman shall separate themselves to vow a vow of a Nazarite,
Go ahead.
to separate themselves unto the Lord, he shall separate himself from wine and strong drink,
Go ahead.
and shall drink no vinegar of wine,
Go ahead.
or vinegar of strong drink.
Go ahead.
Neither shall he drink any liquor of grapes, nor eat moist grapes or dried.
Yep.
All the day of his separation shall he eat nothing that is made of the vine tree.
Okay, so now we know that you can't eat anything that comes from the vine, right? Grapes, even vinegar. You can't eat any of that once you've made the vow of a Nazarite. Keep reading.
Count out of one count. Nor eat moist grapes or dry. All the days of his separation shall he eat nothing that is made of the vine tree,
Go ahead.
from the kernels even to the husk. All the days of the vow of his separation there shall no razor come upon his head.
So you can so that's the second thing of the vow of a Nazarite is that you can't shave your head, you can't cut your hair, right? Go ahead.
Count out of one kind. Salakia, until the days be fulfilled, in which Salakia, in the which he separated himself unto the Lord, he shall be holy, and shall let the locks of the hair of his head grow.
Now, this is where the nuts come in, right? All the Rastafaris, all the people that claim that Samson had dreads. Here's what you don't understand. Is that it said the what?
Locks.
The locks on his what?
On his head.
On his head. What? Keep reading.
Count out of one kind. Locks on his head. Salakia. Locks on his head. Locks of the hair of his head grow.
Okay, so now the locks is talking about this. It's talking about braids. Because here's the difference between braids and dreadlocks, right? Is what they call it.
Yeah.
Or dreads. Number one, dreads is an East Indian custom, right? Let's be real. It's dirty hair, right? I showed a video the other day to my daughter, and we were talking about dreads. I guess this was a while ago. We was talking about dreads, and I was telling her how dreads is just dirty hair. Very dirty, unsanitary, COVID-19-ish. You know what I mean? Who knows what's in there, right? And that we were showing a video of someone cutting their dreads, and there was all kinds of, I could have sworn I seen bugs coming out of there, all kinds of nasty filth coming out of them dreads, right? As you know, Israel were very sanitary kind of people, right? We're not like the heathens. We like to take baths. And we taught the heathens how to be sanitary and how to take baths. We taught them, they observed our laws of cleanliness, right? I can't go a day without taking a bath or a shower. I don't know about you, but I just don't feel right. Let alone, I got all kinds of dirt compiled in my hair. The locks that it's talking about is braids, because with braids, you lock the braid, right? And when it's time to take it out and wash your hair, what do? You unlock the braid, right? That's what it's talking about. Anything that can be locked can be unlocked. It's that simple. Samson had braids. Those are the locks that it was talking about. Braids has always been an Israelite custom. Always been an Israelite custom. But go ahead.
Count out of one kind. Verse 6. All the days that he separated himself unto the Lord, he shall come at no dead body. He shall not make himself unclean for his father, or for his mother, for his brother, or for his sister.
Yeah.
When they die, because the consecration of his God is upon his head.
Yeah, so basically, like, let's say if your family members pass away or something, you can't make yourself unclean by going to their funeral. You know what I mean? You have to, the minute you enter into that room, you become unclean. So this is the vow of the Nazarite. Let's get back to Judges. I just wanted to let you know that the angel that was speaking to the woman was giving her a law that pertained to Nazarites. But go ahead.
Verse 4. Salaki. Verse 6. No, 5.
Yeah.
5. Verse 5. For lo, thou shalt conceive and bear a son, and no razor shall come upon his head. For the child shall be a Nazarite unto God from the womb.
Let me tell you something. When you read Jeremiah, right? Chapter 1, verse 5, it says, I formed thee in the belly. I knew thee, right? Meaning the Lord knew you prior to conception.
Come.
He knew you in the belly, right? He knew that you know, if you were a man in the UPK, he knew that you would be a priest and prophet of the Lord, right? Go ahead.
Salaki, sir, which this they like to say that there's no science in the scriptures. But this scripture right here is about science. Because the sperm cell, before it enters the womb, guess what? It's a living cell.
That's right.
It's a living cell. And since you sisters don't believe that life is in that sperm, y'all go out there and y'all kill the babies, even though the Most High knew that baby before it even gotten into your womb.
That's right. That's right. And the Most High had a plan for that baby.
Come.
That's what y'all sisters don't understand, right? You might have killed the next deliverer of Israel. Who knows, right?
Come.
The Most High had plans for that baby. The plan wasn't for you to kill it, right? Which is why I must say that Planned Parenthood is probably the #1 hate group in America and across the world. You know what I mean? But go ahead.
Count out of one kind. Salakia. And his countenance, Salakia.
And he shall?
And he shall begin to deliver Israel out of the hand of the Philistines.
So now they were under the Philistine captivity for 40 years until Samson came into the scene. Now, so his parents knew that Samson would be the one to deliver them out of the hands of the Philistines. This is what his parents knew, right? Go ahead.
Count out of one count. Verse 6. Then the woman came and said to her husband, saying, a man of God came unto me, and his countenance was like the countenance of an angel of God, very terrible.
Now, what does it mean when it's very terrible? It's not the. Let me tell you something. The countenance of angels that our oppressor has depicted looks very soft and very effeminate. The angels, right? They're all white. They look very soft and effeminate. Brother, let me tell you something. If you see an angel, your heart is going to fail. You know what I mean? It's a fearful thing to look upon angels, right? It's a fearful thing to look upon them. That's why he says his countenance was very terrible, right? He didn't come up. He didn't present himself all peachy, right? And all fruitful, all fruity. That's not how he presented himself. You know what I'm saying? And that's funny because the way you look at, a brother in the UPK, you want that brother to tone it down. You know what I'm saying? You want him to look less threatening, right? You want him to look less of a man, right? But the angels, they looked at them angels are hardcore, man. You couldn't look at no angel. You know what I'm saying? And that's the countenance that a man of the Lord should have. A terrible countenance. You know what I mean? A brother that's serving the Lord should have a terrible countenance. When you look on him, when you look at a man of the Lord, you should look at him with reverence. You know what I mean? But go ahead.
Count out of one count. But I asked him not whence he was, neither told me his name.
Go ahead.
But he said unto me, behold, thou shalt conceive and bear a son. And now drink no wine nor strong drink, neither eat any unclean thing, for the child shall be a Nazarite to God from the womb to the day of his death.
So Samson was purposed to be a Nazarite from the day he came out the womb, from the womb actually, because the mother was required to not eat anything that came from the vine, nor have strong drink. So basically from the womb to the day that he died, this was the vow that Samson was to fulfill. But go ahead.
Verse 8. Then Manoah entreated the Lord and said, O my Lord, let the man of God which thou didst send come again unto us, and teach us what we shall do unto the child that shall be born.
Go ahead.
And God hearkened to the voice of Manoah. And the angel of God came again unto the woman as she sat in the field.
Go ahead.
But Manoah, her husband, was not with her. And the woman made haste and ran and showed her husband and said unto him, Behold, the man hath appeared unto me. That Shalaki, the man has appeared unto me.
And what was the form? What was the form of the angel?
Form of a man.
Yeah, he came as a man, right? But go ahead.
Khan. That came unto me the other day. And Manoah arose and went after his wife, and came to the man, and said unto him, Art thou the man that spakest unto the woman? And he said, I am.
Go ahead.
And Manoah said, Now let thy words come to pass. How shall we order the child? And how shall we do unto him?
Go ahead.
And the angel of the Lord said unto Manoah, Of all that I said unto the woman, let her beware.
So he's basically going to explain what he said earlier about not drinking wine or strong drink, or anything that cometh from the vine, or any unclean thing. See now, this angel did not have to explain to the woman what the unclean things were. Why is that? Because the woman knew the laws of Moses. She knew what she could eat, and she knew what she couldn't eat, right? Which is why we're in this situation today in 2020, right? Because we're the ones that are put in position to rule the planet Earth, right? We're the ones that are being reared up for rulership of the planet. But because the landlord of the planet is our oppressor, is the European man, because he's the landlord of the earth, and because these heathens run amok on this planet, they don't understand what an unclean thing is. So when you would have Chinese people eating all these unclean things, well, that's how pandemics occur. That's how pandemics come about. And the reason why the Lord gave us laws pertaining to what we can eat and what we can't eat is to avoid plagues and diseases and pandemics, right? And more importantly, it's more important for us to keep the laws and to maintain discipline when it comes to what we can or cannot eat, what's lawful and what's unlawful, because he is going to judge the house of Israel first. We get judged for everything that we do, correct? But go ahead.
Verse 12, and Manoah said, Now let thy words come to pass. How shall we order the child, and how shall we do unto him?
Go ahead.
And the angel of the Lord said unto Manoah, All that I have said unto the woman, let her beware. She may not
Jump to 15.
Come. And Manoah said unto the angel of the Lord, I pray thee, let us detain thee until we shall have made ready a kid for thee.
You know what this reminds me of? This is the same thing that Abraham did when angels of the Lord came to Abraham's house, right? There's a spirit that an Israelite has on him that he's lost in America, right? And it's always been the spirit of brotherhood, right? I'll give you an example, right? When a man or kinsman comes to your house, right? And you give him Godspeed, right? And he comes into your house, you ought to protect that brother with your life. Number two, you are responsible to feed that brother. The same spirit that Abraham had on him when it came time, when he saw the three men at his door, he told Sarah, run and go get a kid and go make some meals for these brothers. Because that's the spirit that we should have amongst each other. You know what I'm saying? That's what we should propel amongst our people, right? It's very important that you consider this. It also says this. Keep reading. We're going to get one more scripture through this one.
Count out of one count. I pray thee, let us detain thee until we shall have made ready a kid for thee.
Go ahead.
And the angel of the Lord said unto Manoah, though thou detain me, I will not eat of thy bread. And if thou wilt offer a burnt offering, thou must offer it unto the Lord. For Manoah knew not that he was an angel of the Lord.
So the angel appeared unto Manoah as a man. He didn't know that that was an angel of the Lord. But you know what he did do? He still entertained that angel. He still gave that man who he didn't know was an angel. He still gave that man that respect as to, let me feed you, brother. Let me, you know what I'm saying? Let me take care of you before you go off on your journey. And that's how we should all think. We should all think, always think brotherhood. You know what I'm saying? Always think that. Always give me Hebrews. Give me Hebrews chapter 13, verse 2. And the reason why I say that is this. The reason why you always want to be kind to your brother. The reason why you want to be subservient in respect to hospitality to your brother is for this reason we're about to pull up right now.
So almost like,
No, past that, yeah. Past Romans. Keep going, keep going. Keep going. It's in between the somewhere.
yeah, went too far. No, past it.
Keep going. No, yeah, got it. Give me Hebrews chapter 13, verse 2.
13 and 2?
Yeah.
Hebrews chapter 13, verse 2.
Go ahead.
Be not forgetful to entertain strangers.
Let me tell you something. It says, be not forgetful to entertain strangers, right? This brother right here was clearly was a stranger, right? That Manoah wanted to entertain, right? Read that one more time.
Be not forgetful to entertain strangers. For
now when it says entertain, it's not talking about, spit a freestyle or, you know what I'm saying, or do a magic trick, you know what I'm saying, in front of the brother, but to treat him with a level of brotherhood, with hospitality. Be kind and be courteous to that brother. You know what I'm saying? That's the entertainment that they're talking about. But go ahead.
it's lucky before these Christians get excited, these strangers are not talking about strangers of our nation. Because if you read the verse right above it, it said, let brotherly love continue.
That's right. That's right.
Brotherly.
Yeah, you see, nowadays you have to correct yourself, or reiterate something, because Christians will take that and run off and go start kissing their oppressor.
God.
Right? Start tap dancing for their oppressor. That's not what it's talking about. It's clearly talking about your own people. That's what it's talking about. Keep reading.
For thereby some have entertained angels unaware.
And this is what Manoah did. He was entertaining that angel. He was trying to fix that brother a meal. He was trying to show him the utmost level of hospitality, because that brother was under his under his roof. You know what I mean? And this is what you're supposed to do. Anytime you invite a brother into your house and that brother's under your roof, you treat that brother like, you know what I'm saying? You treat that brother like you treat yourself. You know what I mean? You treat that brother like, and you protect that brother with your life. And this is the same spirit that Abraham had when the angels came to him. But go ahead. Let's go back to
Judges.
yeah.
Judges, chapter 13, verse 16.
And also, if I may, if you understand the scriptures, you also know that we have the law of the stranger as well, right? But go ahead.
Middle of 16. Thou must offer it unto the Lord.
No, so start at 17.
Oh, come. Manoah.
No, actually jump to verse let me see. Verse 24.
Verse 24. And the woman bare a son.
Go ahead.
And called his name Samson.
Samson. In the Hebrew, it's Shemashuan. In the Hebrew, it's Shemashuan. Right? But go ahead.
Kana. And the child grew, and the Lord blessed him.
Go ahead.
And the Spirit of the Lord began to move him at times in the camp of Dan between Zorah and Eshtaol.
Go ahead. So the brother clearly had the spirit of the Lord upon him, right? And it began to move him at times, right? And that's what happens when you have the spirit of the Lord upon you. It begins to move you at times, right? And you know this is the spirit of the Lord right here. You know what I mean? The vibe that I'm getting right now, that I'm putting out, right? But go ahead.
Kana, verse 25.
No, wait. Jump to verse 25.
It's like it. Chapter 14.
Yeah, let's go to 14.
Chapter 14, verse 1. And Samson went down to Timnath and saw a woman in Timnath of the daughters of the Philistines.
Go ahead.
And he grew up and told
verse 2. And he came up.
Oh, Salaki. Verse 2. And he came up and told his father and his mother and said, I have seen a woman in Timnath of the daughters of the Philistines. Now therefore get her for me to wife.
Now Samson has an eye on a heathen woman, right? And he goes and he tells his parents that he wants that woman to be his wife. Now, out of Samson's, you can't say it's ignorance, because Samson knew the laws of the Most High, right? He was raised a certain way that would help him to keep his Nazirite vow. It wasn't only just not, drinking from the vine or eating any unclean thing, but he grew up with the customs and he knew the laws of the Most High, right? And he knew it was unlawful for him to marry a heathen. He knew that, right? And him knowing that, he is propelled by his lust to ignore that law, right? And you start to see a trait in Samson, right? You'll start to see a trait in Samson when it comes to women, right? And let me tell you, brothers, as we read along, you're going to see a brother who had the Spirit of the Lord upon him, and you're going to see his fall by a woman. And it goes to show you how powerful women are, right? That can make a man of the Lord whose spirit was present upon this brother to make a man fall, because a brother cannot control his lust. And that's what it is at the end of the day, right? It's being in charge of your spirit and putting and subduing your flesh. And Samson, this was his vice. This was his thorn in his flesh. But go ahead.
Kind out of one kind. Verse 3. Then his father and his mother said unto him, Is there never a woman among the daughters of thy brethren, or among all my people, that thou goest to take a wife of the uncircumcised Philistines?
Right.
And Samson said unto his father.
So now, his father and his mother saying this because it's not appropriate to go and marry a woman from another nation, right? It's unlawful to do. And his father and mother's coming at him like, can't you, why can't you get one of these bad sisters out here? You know what I mean? Get one of these sisters out here that's part of your family, right? That looks way better than these heathen women, right? And it goes to show it's the same thing. Here's the problem, is that, not to get too deep, but the reason why the Lord destroyed the planet by flood the first time is because of interracial marriage.
Come.
It's because the sons of God, the sons of Adam and Seth, right, decided to marry the daughters of men. And this is the reason why the Lord destroyed the earth by flood, except for 8 people: Noah, his 3 sons, and their wives, right? Another example, Solomon, right? Solomon's, the reason why the Lord does not want you to marry a heathen woman is because you marrying a heathen woman might turn your heart away from the Most High to the point where you now start to worship their God. What we'll also dive into is the fact that certain women have certain skill sets to convince you to do something that goes against the Most High. They have certain skill sets to make you disobey the Most High. Let me get Deuteronomy 7:3. Now, this right here, the fact that the Most High is against interracial marriage, every Christian will fight you over this. Everyone in the world outside of the UBK will fight you over this, right? Unity camps will fight you over this because they're all about interracial marriage, right? Muslims will fight you over this, right? But go ahead.
Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 3.
Yep.
Neither shalt thou make marriages with them.
Is there anything about that?
Oh, concept.
What's that? Read it.
Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 2. And when the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them.
Go ahead. Next one.
Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show mercy unto them.
Keep reading.
Neither shalt thou make marriages with them.
See, the Lord said we are not to make marriages with the other nations. We're not to do that. You are not to marry Su Young. Right? You are not to marry Muntumbu's daughters. You are not to do that. You are not to marry Becky. Leave Becky alone. Right? But go ahead.
Thy daughters thou shalt not give unto his sons.
And you should not give your daughters unto his sons. But go ahead.
Shalakia. Neither, Shalakia, nor his daughters shalt thou take unto thy son.
Nor should you take their daughters and give them unto your sons. And so, Um, is there any more on that?
Oh, concept.
Yeah, give me a little bit more.
For Salakia, for they will turn away thy son from following me.
And that's the reason why you don't want to marry your daughter or your sons to a heathen nation, to someone, the daughter and son of a heathen. You don't want to do it because they'll turn them away from following the Most High. Now, in the black and Hispanic community, if we taught our children to marry amongst themselves and to not give their daughters, our daughters and our sons, to their daughters and their sons, brother, you would see a whole, you would listen, that right there, you would see something so amazing happen, right? And now everything is just a bunch of confusion right now, right? All this confusion going on. But if we kept that law, brother, our strength and our numbers would be crazy, right? The reason why I say that is because of this, right? You give you a prime example. What's the sister's name that does Serena Williams, right? Prime example, right? Marry your daughter onto a heathen. Here's the problem, right? A woman like Serena Williams that has all that money, right? Who does her inheritance go to?
Goes to her children.
But what are her children?
Seeds of their father.
Now, if their father's a heathen, who does that inheritance go to?
The heathen nation.
It goes to the heathen nation. So, Serena's inheritance is essentially going to a white man and their people. It's not going to her people, which is why you don't want to do that. You don't want to. You guys understand?
Question, sir.
Go ahead.
Question on YouTube from Political Boy. Okay, I wonder, does that mean you believe interracial marriage is wrong, and are you okay with interracial friendships?
Okay. The Lord says to separate, right? To be holy, right? But if you have an interracial friendship, let me explain to you something, right? I do believe interracial marriage is wrong because in Genesis 10, the Lord separated the nations, right? Also Christ talks about how they were drinking in Matthew 24, how they were drinking, eating, and marrying until the flood came. A lot of people don't understand Genesis 6. They think that Genesis 6, when they're talking about the sons of God, they think they're talking about angels, right? Angels are not carnal creatures, right? They're not filled with lust like men are, right? Nor do they have sex with this ain't Greek mythology, right? Nor do they have sex with humans, right? Angels serve the Most High, right? Satan was an angel, and he serves the Most High. So when you understand Genesis 6, and you understand who the sons of God are, what you'll come to understand is that the sons of God are come from the line of Adam down to Seth and his lineage. Those are who the sons of God are, right? That's who it's talking about. It's not talking about angels. It's not talking about, nuts that are talking about Nephilims and that they were giants on the earth at that time. You just don't understand the scripture. You don't understand what Genesis 6 was talking about. Genesis 6, the reason why the Lord destroyed the planet was because of interracial marriage. I just read to you in Deuteronomy, right? What in the law of Moses, that you should not give your daughters unto their sons, and they should not give their sons unto your daughters. The Lord is a God of separation. Now, second question, right? Are you okay with interracial friendship? Is it a sin to have a heathen friend? It's not a sin to have a heathen friend. But here's the problem, right? When you put on the spirit of the Most High, when you put on the spirit of Christ, here's the issue. Is that heathen friend that you have, give it some time, he will no longer want to be around you. But go ahead.
Slocky, sir. Just to add on to your point, in Ecclesiasticus 12, I think it's like 13.
Never trust that enemy.
16. Yeah, never trust thine enemy. Yeah, and you know what I'm saying? Like rust, like iron rusted is for sure gonna happen. They're gonna show their colors. So don't be charming those snakes, cause nobody gonna feel bad if you get bitten by the snake.
That's right.
Nobody gonna feel bad for you.
That's right. But it's not unlawful for interracial friendship. It just won't work if you have the spirit of the Lord on you.
That's not wise.
It's not wise and it won't work. Right? That's why the brother just mentioned, never trust thine enemy. Because all these nations have come up against Israel. When you read Psalms 83, it depicts how all these nations conspired against us, and how they plotted against us. So Israel, the name of Israel, may be no more in remembrance. Remember that.
Salaki, sir. The brother responded on YouTube. It says, but if we observe Jesus' classic parable about the Good Samaritan, it displays a clear image of two groups who hated each other.
Okay.
And Jesus explained love and kindness in the situation.
So he explained love and kindness in the solution. Okay, but what does that have to do with, so are you saying that the Good Samaritan story, how do you equate that with heathen nations?
He believes Samaritan is a separate nation from Israelites.
So here's the thing, right? I almost want him to pull up the scripture to go through it. I almost want him to pull it up. The Good Samaritan story. Problem is, brother, you don't understand the Good Samaritan story, and you don't understand what Christ was talking about when it came to love and kindness, right? Now, I'll give you an example, right? Since we want to pull up the Good Samaritan, let me just give the brother one scripture, and then we're gonna jump out of here. Give me Salakia. Let's pull up the Samaritan woman, right?
Oh, come.
Actually, give me verse 9.
Of what?
John chapter 4, verse 9. What I'm pulling up here, brother, if you are brother, is how the Jews and the Samaritans had no dealings with each other, right? But go ahead.
Then saith the woman of Samaria unto him,
Go ahead.
who is that thou, being a Jew, askest drink of me, which am a woman of Samaria?
When it says, which am a woman of Samaria, this woman was not Israelite. You know what I'm saying? When you go to, I think it's 1st or 2nd Kings, and it talks about Samaria and how the priests were teaching the Samaritans, right? There came a time where the Samaritans thought that Jacob, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob was their father, right? As time went on. But this woman was clearly distincting the two, saying, hey, How is it that you're a Jew asking a woman of Samaria for a drink? Read the next line.
Kanadawan Khan. For the Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans.
We've never had any dealings with the Samaritans. That's what you got to understand, right? The Jews have always been a separate people. What I mean by that, we've always been holy. Holy means to be separate. We've always been a separate people. We've never had any dealings with the Samaritans. What you need to do is pull up the Good Samaritan, scripture. You can bring that up tomorrow's class, because I want to finish this. Pull up come to class tomorrow, brother. Pull up the Good Samaritan scripture, and we can break that down to you as to what that is. For the sake of time, I just got to get back to this. But just know that the Jews had no. Say it again.
But Jesus responds by offering her water and infinite life.
No, he didn't offer water in life. He said, if you knew who I was, right, that was asking for a drink, right? Understand this, right? What Christ was saying is Christ was showing his authority to that woman, right? I'll give you an example. Just because you pulled that up, I'm going to give you the second one, right? Give me,
technically, yeah, they're calling it a whore.
Yeah, later on. But give me, go to John, go to Salaki. Give me 1 second. Let me just pull it up. Give me John chapter 4, verse 22.
John chapter 4, verse 22.
So start at so this is the same. So we're going to go to John on this one. We're just going to go a little bit down. Start at verse 19.
John chapter 4, verse 19. The woman saith unto him, Sir, I perceive that thou art a prophet.
Go ahead, verse 20. This is the same. This is the woman from Samaria. Go ahead.
Our fathers worship in the mountains, and ye say that in Jerusalem is the place where man ought to worship.
So, as she's saying, our fathers worshipped in the mountain, what you don't understand, right, is that there was a time when Samaria had taken over a part of the kingdom, right? And the priests and prophets, when you go to Kings, the book of Kings, what you'll realize is that the priests at that time were teaching the Samaritans that were in the province, right? So now, because she grew up with the custom, she believed, when she said our fathers, she believed that her fathers were Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's what she believed. But here's what Christ says. Go ahead.
Khan Adawan Khan. Our fathers worship Salakia.
21.
Jesus said unto her, Woman, believe me, the hour cometh when ye shall neither in this mountain nor yet at Jerusalem worship the Father.
She said, so now what he's saying is this. He said, there's going to come a time where you're not going to worship in this mountain, nor at Jerusalem, you're not going to worship the Father, because the true children of God are going to be worshiping the Father. Read it in the first. Read verse 22.
Verse 22. Ye worship, ye know not what.
You don't know what you worship. Heathens don't know what they're worshiping. Any heathen that says, I believe in the Lord, I believe in Jesus, and I worship the Father, they don't know what they worship, right? But go ahead. What does he say?
We know what we worship.
But we know what we worship. He's talking about his people, right? He's talking about the Jews, right? Here's the kicker, the last part.
For salvation is of the Jews.
Is of the Samaritans.
The Jews.
Is of the Chinese.
The Jews.
Salvation is of the Jews. So that water that he's talking about, that living water that you think that he's offering her, he's saying that salvation is of the Jews. That's what he's saying. He didn't say salvation is of the Samaritans. He said salvation is of the Jews. So the living water that you claim he was offering her, he goes further down to say that the salvation is of the Jews. That's just a, proof whatever point he was trying to make. But go ahead. Let's go back to this. Let's finish this real quick.
Judges, chapter 14, middle of 5. And it's like in middle of 4. For at the time, the Philistines had dominion over Israel. Then went Samson down and his father and his mother to Timnath, and came to the vineyard of Timnath. And behold, a young lion roared against him.
Go ahead.
And the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him, and he rent him as he would have rent a kid. And he had nothing in his hand.
This goes to show you the strength that Samson had. You know what I'm saying? Because he had the Spirit of the Lord upon him, the strength that he had, that he was able to tear this line up with his bare hands. So go ahead.
Count out of one con. And the Salakia. And he had nothing in his hand, but he told not his father or mother what he had done.
All right, so jump down to verse 10.
Verse 10. So his father went down unto the woman, and Samson made there a feast, for so used the young men to do.
Go ahead.
And it came to pass, when they saw him, that they brought 30 companions to be with him.
Go ahead.
And Samson said unto them, I will now put forth a riddle unto you. If ye can certainly declare it me within the 7 days of the feast, and find it out, then I will give you 30 sheets of dirty and 30 change of garments.
So now he's placing a bet with him. He's like, man, I'm gonna give you this riddle. If you can solve this riddle, I'm gonna give you 30 sheets and 30 change of garments if you can do that, right? Go ahead.
But if ye cannot declare it me, then shall ye give me 30 sheets and 30 change of garments. And they said unto him, Put forth thy riddle, that we may hear it.
Go ahead.
And he said unto them, Out of the eater came forth meat, and out of the strong came forth sweetness. And they could not in 3 days expound the riddle.
Go ahead.
And it came to pass on the 7th day, that they said unto Samson's wife.
So now they go to Samson's wife, right? And now they're putting the pressure on her, right? They poached her. But go ahead.
Count out of one con. Salakia. Samson's wife, entice thy husband, that he may declare unto us the riddle, lest we burn thee and thy father's house with fire.
So now they want Samson's wife to entice him. The key word is entice. Women have a special skill, right? Smart women, right? Cunning women have a special skill. And the skill that they have is that they're able to entice men to do things that men would normally not do. They're skillful at enticing men to commit an act that a man would normally not do, right? And they have ways of doing it, right? And it's very cunning the way a woman can get a man to do something by her fair speech, by her crying, by her nagging, right? There's plenty of ways that she can get this man to fold. Okay?
By her con out of one con.
Oh yeah, that too. That too. But go ahead.
Con out of one con. Salakia. In thy father's house with fire, have ye called us to take that we have? Is it not so? And Samson's wife wept before him and said,
what did she do?
Wept before him.
And Samson's wife wept, meaning she cried onto Samson, right? She nagged him and she cried and she brought contention, right? Go ahead.
Con out of one con. And said, thou dost but hate me.
Now who's heard this before? You don't love me. You could have paid that woman's rent. You could have crossed the 7 seas to that woman. But when you could have took a bullet for that woman. But when you don't get a woman what she wants, here's what she's gonna say. She's gonna forget everything that you've done for her, and she's gonna say, you don't love me, you hate me, because you don't wanna please me in this manner, or do what I'm asking you to do. So because you don't want to do that, that means you hate me. And many brothers become suckers and fall under this witchcraft that she's putting on you, right?
Con.
Keep reading.
Con out of one con. And Salakia. And lovest me not, thou hast put forth a riddle unto the children of my people.
Of what?
Of my people.
She said it clearly. She said, thou hast put on a riddle on the children of my people. Let me tell you something about interracial marriage. Is that woman that you have right now, when things hit the fan and the threat is on, she is going to betray you. That is a given. She's going to betray you. When she feels the threat, what do these men do? They threatened her and her father's house and said, we are going to burn it to the ground. We'll kill you and your father. You don't tell us what it is. She is going to betray you. That's why you want a woman that is of your nation, right? That is of your people. Because there's a likelihood that she'll stand with you. Let me tell you something. When things hit the fan, Becky is going to betray you. I'm going to tell you that right now. She is going to betray you. And what you have to understand is that Becky doesn't understand your pain. She doesn't know what it feels like to be a nigga. She doesn't understand oppression. For you brothers that think that you could go and, it's easier to be with a white woman, right? It's easier to be, she's more submissive, right? You hear that all the time. It's easier. Well, here's the difference between the sisters that you've rejected and that white woman. Is that white woman has never gone through oppression, right? She doesn't know what it feels like, right? She doesn't have that relation with you when it comes to being oppressed. Here's why you can survive with your sister, with your kinsman. It's because they're in the same hell that you're in, right? They're in the same hell that you're in. So the problem is that you going and getting a heathen, thinking that this heathen is more submissive, this, that, and the third. What you're gonna end up realizing is that when things hit the fan, she's gonna betray you, and it never fails. She is not going to ride with you. She's going to ride with her people. who she is accustomed to, right? But go ahead.
Count out of one kind. And has not told it me? And he said unto her, Behold, I have not told it my father nor my mother. And shall I tell it thee?
And here's what she did. Read verse 17. Here's how she was able to entice Samson to give her this riddle. Go ahead.
And she wept before him the 7 days while their feast lasted. And it came to pass on the 7th day that he told her, because she lies sore upon him. And she told the riddle to the children of her people.
And Samson was a sucker for this one. He fell for the whoop-de-wop, right? He fell for it, right? She cried, she nagged 7 days straight. Imagine the woman 7 days straight, crying sorely upon you and nagging and just bugging you day and night till you tell her, right? 99% of men are just gonna give in and just say, F it, man. Here, this is what it is, man. Leave me alone, right? Give me Ecclesiasticus 28 and 27.
Ecclesiasticus 20 and 27?
28 and 27.
Ecclesiasticus 28. Ecclesiastes or
Ecclesiasticus
27.
28 and 27.
Ecclesiasticus 28 starts at 26.
Give me Slucky. 17. Check 17 real quick. No, 28, 17.
28, verse 17.
Give me a second. Maybe it's Ecclesiastes. Give me a second. 26 and 27. Slucky. Ecclesiastes 26, verse 27.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 26, verse 27. A loud crying woman in a social scold.
Read that one more time.
A loud crying woman in a scold shall be sought out to drive away the enemies.
Let me tell you something, man. There's something about a woman when she cries, and especially a loud crying woman in a scold. You know what a scold is? Look at what a scold is. The son about this kind of woman that will even drive away enemies. You know what I mean? Even an enemy cannot come up against this kind of woman.
Scold, transitive verb in the Merriam-Webster dictionary. To censure, usually severely or angrily.
Go ahead.
Rebuke, to find fault noisily or angrily.
Let me tell you something, and this is what a woman will do, right? She will scold you, right? She'll be persistent with it, right? And some women will do it angrily. Some women will do it in a way that they find fault in you, and they're gonna noise their complaint. They're gonna cry onto you, and in this case, the woman is accusing Samson, all right, is crying onto Samson and accusing Samson of not loving her because he would not tell her this riddle, right? She looked at it as if I'm your woman. Why wouldn't you tell your woman, right? But go ahead.
I'll look at a precept.
Go ahead.
First Esdras chapter 4, verse 26.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Many there be that have run out of their wits for women and become servants for their sakes.
That's right. That's perfect. A lot of brothers have lost their mind because of that woman, right? And essentially, end up serving their woman, right? End up falling under their subjection. Because a woman is very witty when it comes to enticing you. She's very skillful in that lane. But go ahead. Let's get back to that's perfect precept. Let's get back to Judges.
Judges, chapter 14, verse 19. No, 18. And the men of the city said unto him on the 7th day before the sun went down.
So they waited on the 7th day after they poached his woman, right, and threatened her. They waited on the 7th day. And what did they do?
What is sweeter than honey?
And they were able to tell him what the riddle was. The woman told him what Samson told her, right? Go ahead.
And what is stronger than a lion? And he said unto them, if ye had not plowed with my heifer.
You know, Israel, we love to use slang. A heifer is the definition of a heifer is a young calf. That's what a heifer is, right? If you had not plowed my heifer, meaning you seduced my woman, right? And she was a young woman, right? Who's just simple and easily just naive and easily can be deceived, right? But go ahead.
Count out on one count. Ye had not found out my riddle.
Go ahead.
And the Spirit of the Lord came upon him. And he went down to Ashkelon and slew 30 men of them.
What did it say? It said the Spirit of the Lord came upon him, right? When he slew these 30 men. Go ahead.
And took their spoil.
Go ahead.
And gave change of garments unto them, which expounded the riddle.
Right, keep going.
And his anger was kindled, and he went up to his father's house. And Samson's wife was given to his companion, whom he had used as his friend.
Now keep in mind, right, when his mother had asked him why we skipped this part, why he didn't go get a woman from his nation, and why he would go after an uncircumcised Philistine. Part we missed was in verse 4 where it says, but his father and his mother knew not that this was of the Lord, that he sought occasion against the Philistines. The reason why the Lord put that spirit upon Samson to go over there, right? The Lord basically used Samson's lust, right, against him, but for the reason of to fulfill what the Lord wanted Samson to do by bringing occasion against the Philistines, and this is what sparked it up. But go ahead.
Every man could attest to this. None could drive you to anger more than that woman.
That's right.
That's why us men and I, as you became, learn to control that
emotion.
Control that emotion. But in the world or anything, nothing can anger you more than your woman. And that's what happened here.
That's right. And the Lord staged it that way, so that Samson can create smoke with the Philistines. Because in verse 4, Judges 14:4, the end of that says, for at that time the Philistines had dominion over Israel. And keep in mind, the Most High knew Samson in the womb, and he knew that Samson, he purposed that Samson would be a deliverer. So now the Most High is setting the stage, and he's creating this tension between Samson and the Philistines. Go ahead.
Count out of one kind. Verse 20. But Samson, Salaki, I just read that one. Chapter 15.
Go ahead.
Verse 1. But it came to pass within a while after, in the time of wheat harvest, that Samson visited his wife with the kid. And he said, I will go in to my wife into the chamber. But her father would not suffer him to go in. And her father said, I verily thought that thou hadst utterly hated her. Therefore I gave her to thy companion.
Mm-hmm.
Is not her younger sister fairer than she?
Yeah. Fair
Take-
meaning more beautiful.
Come.
Right? Go ahead.
Take her, I pray thee, instead of her. And Samson said concerning them, now shall I be more blameless than the Philistines, though I do them a displeasure?
Go ahead.
And Samson went and caught 300 foxes, and took firebrands, and turned tail to tail, and put a firebrand in the midst between two tails.
So Samson goes and catches 300 foxes, ties the tails together, and put these firebrands between the tails. And what happens?
And when he had set the brands on fire, he let them go to into the standing corn of the Philistines, and burnt up the shocks, and also the standing corn, with the vineyards and olives.
And Samson went to work. He basically he burnt a whole vineyard, right? He burnt a whole
Their sources of food.
their sources of food, and this had to be a huge field, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so now more smoke is brewing between Samson and the Philistines. And keep reading.
Khan out of one Khan. Verse 6. Then the Philistines said, who have done this? And they answered, Samson, the son-in-law of the Timnite, because he had taken his wife and given her to his companion. And the Philistines came up and burnt her and her father with fire.
And Samson's wife and father still got burnt up, despite all this, right? Go ahead.
And Samson said unto them, though ye have done this, yet will I be avenged of you, and after that I will cease. And he smote them hip and thigh with a great slaughter.
And so Samson killed a whole bunch of them, right? He went ham on them, right? Literally. Jump to now. Here come the Christian. Verse 10.
Verse 10. And the men of Judah said, why are ye come up against us? And they answered, to bind Samson are we come up, to do to him as he have done to us.
Go ahead.
And
now the Philistines are going up, and the men of Judah are like, why are you coming up against us? What's going on? Like, what do we do to you? And they're like, we're coming against Samson. And so 3,000 of them go, and they step to Samson like, yo, you know that the Philistines rule over us, right? Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Why are you coming up against why are you doing this to the Philistines? Why are you doing this to our oppressor? Right? Don't Christians say that all the time? Why are you guys up there? Right? Why are you guys talking about the so-called white man? Right? Don't they do that all the time? Right? They always come up against us and say, why would you even say that? Like, that's you're talking hate and this, that, and the third. There's always men in the midst of our nation that have presented themselves as cowards, right? And in the UPK, we've always had the stance of no cowards, right? When our parents feared our oppressor, feared to speak up, well, now their children are speaking up, right? And now it's, there's always men that's going to come up against you when you're trying to deliver them from their enemies. There's always men that the naysayers and those that present a cowardly approach that are going to come up against you to try to stop you from what you're doing. And this is the same thing we go through in 2020. Same thing we've been going through since 1969 of men that don't want to see us out in those corners, right? That don't want us to speak against our enemies and to speak against the crimes that they've committed towards our people. There's men out there that will gang up and stop what the Lord has purposed, right? Go ahead.
Count out of one count. Slack it. Then 3,000.
Yeah, go ahead.
Then 3,000 men of Judah went to the top of the rock.
No, jump to verse 12.
Verse 12. And they said unto him, We are come down to bind thee, that we may deliver thee into the hand of the Philistines. And Samson said unto them, Swear unto me that ye will not fall upon me yourselves.
Yeah, you don't think Samson could have took on those 3,000 men if he wanted to? He could, right? Right? But because for the sake of brotherhood, he spared those men. That's what Samson did. When Samson could have wreaked havoc on those men that betrayed him, right? He spared those men. But go ahead.
Count out of one count. Salakia. And Salakia. And Samson said unto them, Swear to me that ye will not fall upon me yourselves. And they spake unto him, saying, No, but we will bind thee fast, and deliver thee into their hands. But surely we will not kill thee.
Go ahead.
And they bound him with 2 new cords, and brought him up from the rock. Salakia, sir.
Yeah.
This is a testament to how strong Samson is. They use new cords. That means this is like, back in those days, those ropes made out of fresh plants. They wasn't like dead plants like they are now.
Yeah.
And then they end up dying out. But back then, fresh, the new joints, harder to rip.
Yeah,
harder to break.
You're absolutely right. Jump to verse. Jump to verse 14.
Verse 14. And when he came unto Leah, the Philistines shouted against him, and the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him.
Go ahead. And the Spirit of the what?
Of the Lord.
Go ahead.
Came mightily upon him. And the cords that were upon his arms came as flax that was burnt with fire.
Go ahead.
And his bands loosed from his hands.
Go ahead.
And he found a new jawbone of an ass, and put forth his hand, and took it, and slew 1,000 men therewith.
And the Spirit of the Lord came upon him. Those men that were willing to betray Samson, and that were trying to stop what the Lord has purposed in Samson, the Spirit of the Lord came upon Samson. And he showed those men, all right, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to grab this jawbone. I'm going to kill 1,000 more.
Come.
Right? If I saw something like that, I'm riding with that brother. I'm riding with you, brother. Because clearly the Spirit of the Lord is upon this brother right here. Right? But then weak men will always come up against you to try to stop and snuff the Spirit of the Lord from coming out. Which is what they do in where I can't. They're trying to stop the Spirit of the Lord from being pushed out. Right? Let's get out of here. Let's just and keep in mind, Samson judged Israel for 20 years. He judged Israel. Right? He was a judge in Israel, right? As there were many judges during the time of Judges, there were many judges in Israel. Last chapter, 16.
Drop down to 16?
Yeah.
Chapter 16, verse 1. Then went Samson to Gaza, and saw there a harlot, and went in unto her.
And that was one of Samson's biggest problems. One of Samson's biggest problem was his lust. You know what I mean? And this is what got him in trouble every time, right? It was always his lust. And Samson went on to a harlot, right? And keep reading. I want to pull up another scripture after this, but go ahead.
Con out of one con. And it was told on Slakia, verse 2. And it was told the Gazites, saying, Samson is come hither. And they compassed him in, and laid wait for him all night in the gate of the city, and were quiet all the night, saying, in the morning, when it is day, we shall kill him.
Go ahead.
And Samson lay till midnight, and arose at midnight, and took the door of the gate of the city.
So he broke the doors of the gate of the city, and he took it with him to escape from this band of men that were trying to kill him. Right?
Kind of. Salaki. They had a plan though, sir. and the two posts, and went away with them, bar and all, and put them upon his shoulders, and carried them up to the top of a hill that is before Hebron.
The problem with Samson was that he was a sucker for women, right? And he was a sucker for heathen women at that, right? But what the underlying story of all this is that the Lord was using Samson to cause an occasion against the Philistines, right? And the problem is that it was unfortunate that Samson was used the way he was used because of his lust, right? And the Lord still got glory out of the situation, right? But what did it do? It came at the cost of Samson's life, right? That's why it says the wages of sin is death, right? So you got to be careful as a righteous man. You got to be careful, and you got to understand that you have to control your lust, or you can fall as Samson did. But as a righteous man, the Lord will use you for his purpose. And then at that point, it could be that you do lose your life. You know what I mean? You do go out in a way that is that could be in the way that Samson went out, right? But go ahead.
Con out of one con. And it came to pass afterward that he loved a woman in the valley of Sarek, whose name was Delilah.
And this is the woman right here that every brother has come across. And some brothers have escaped from her. But this woman right here, this was the stumbling block for Samson right here. But go ahead.
Con out of one con. And the Lord of the Philistines came up unto her and said unto her, entice him.
Entice him. Here it is again. Entice him. Go ahead.
And see wherein his great strength lieth.
Read on.
And by what means we may prevail against him, that we may bind him to afflict him.
Go ahead.
And we will give thee every one of us 1,100 pieces of silver.
So this woman was going to be rich if she delivered Samson. And guess what? You marrying a heathen woman, all it takes is money for her to betray you.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That's all it takes is money for her to betray you. Go ahead.
Salagi, sir, there's plenty of examples of that in the sports world.
That's right. That's right. Tiger Woods. Who else? There's a bunch of them. Right? Go ahead.
And Salakia. And Delilah said to Samson, tell me, I pray thee, where thy great strength lieth.
So now Delilah is going to use her cunningness to entice Samson. And so she does the same method that the Timnath woman did to Samson, right?
Yeah.
But her method was a little bit different. let's see how. Keep going. Let's keep reading on that.
Kind out of one kind. And wherewith thou mightest be bound to afflict thee. And Samson said unto her, if they bind me with 7 green whips.
So he's giving us a couple of examples of how, it could happen, but he's not telling her the truth on how it's done, right? Because
he learned his lesson.
He said again?
Because he learned his lesson.
That's right. That's right. So he thought he learned his lesson.
Yeah, he thought he did.
Jump to verse. Jump to verse 12.
Delilah.
No, actually, 13. Now keep in mind, Delilah had men in the midst of her chamber just waiting. Every time he told her, oh, you do it this way, and it doesn't work, she's like, oh, you keep mocking me, right? You keep mocking me. This is the 3rd time you mocked me. Now let's get to the meat of it. Start at verse 15.
Kind of one kind. Verse 15.
What did she say? This is how every woman does it.
And she said unto him, how canst thou say, I love thee?
Same thing the last woman said, right?
Come.
I thought you loved me. You said you loved me, right? Go ahead.
When thine heart is not with me.
Go ahead.
And thou mocked me these 3 times.
Go ahead.
And hast not told me wherein thy great strength lieth.
Go ahead.
And it came to pass when she pressed him daily in her words and urged him.
When she pressed him daily with her what?
Words.
With her words. Go ahead.
And urged him.
Go ahead.
So that his soul was vexed unto death.
And that's the skill set every woman has. And woman wants to entice you, she is going to keep pressing you with her words, right? To urge you, right? To the point where your soul is vexed unto death, where you feel like you want to die, than be in the same room with this woman that's nagging and that's driving you crazy, that's loud, crying and scolding you. Go ahead.
2 precepts. Like the scriptures say, never give your strength unto a woman.
That's right.
And what is more bitter than death?
A woman whose hands and bands, right?
Come.
Yeah. Those are 2 great precepts that we could have pulled. Give me, and so eventually what happens is Samson ends up telling her the secret. And so she sends a man to come into the room and cut off his braids, right? Shave his head and cut off his braids. And they gouge his eyes. They burn his eyes out, right? Jump to verse 29. No, verse 27.
27. Now the house was full of men and women.
Go ahead.
And all the lord of the Philistines were there. And there were upon the roof about 3,000 men and women that beheld while Samson made sport.
So now when they captured Samson, they wanted to be entertained and made sport of him, right? Keep reading.
And Samson called unto the Lord and said, O Lord God, remember me, I pray thee,
Go ahead.
and strengthen me.
Now keep in mind, Samson, as he was in captivity, captured, his hair started to grow back. But go ahead.
Only this once, O Lord, that I may be at once avenged of the Philistines for my 2 eyes.
Go ahead.
And Samson took hold of the 2 middle pillars upon which the house stood, and on which it was borne up, of the one with his right hand and the other with his left.
Go ahead.
And Samson said, let me die with the Philistines.
What did Samson say?
Let me die with the Philistines.
Samson said, let me die with the Philistines. Samson would rather have died with to see his enemies fall. Here's what David said, right? Happy shall he be, right? When a man sees his enemy fall, right? Samson would rather have died to see his enemies fall. And in spite of this COVID-19, a man in the UPK, or a man who claims to serve the Lord, you should count your life as a loss. You know what I mean? You shouldn't worry about saving your life, right? If you're in the UPK, you're not worried about saving your life, right? You're here to what? Lose your life. That's what you're here for. For who? For your people. And Samson would rather die and see 3,000 of these Philistines die with him, right? And the Lord granted that and allowed Samson to die and kill his enemies, right? And it's the same spirit that Arabs have, right? They send one man to what? Die to, for what?
Kill more.
To kill more, right? It's called collateral damage. And this is what Samson understood. Samson understood that in order for me to wipe out 3,000 of these men, let me be the collateral damage. You see, the plagues are going on in America right now. And the men in the UPK are fine with being the collateral damage. So the Lord can wreak havoc on our enemies, right? We're willing to lose our life for the purpose to fulfill the will of the Most High, right? Give me yeah.
Just want to bring up a side point. A lot of these Rastafarians out there, they get these dirty dreadlocks because they believe that Samson had dreadlocks. And not just that because of that, but they also believe that it gave him his strength. But as you can see in this, that did not give him his strength.
It was always the Most High.
His strength was the Lord.
Yeah.
It was not his hair. It was not the fact he didn't drink. It was nothing that he played with the Nazarite vow. It was the Most High.
And it was only through his obedience that he was able to have the Spirit of the Lord. Give me Proverbs 7, verse 25. Here's the lesson in all this, right? There's two lessons in this. It's that as you worried about this COVID-19 pandemic, right? And you're trying to save your life, and you're washing your hands every day, and you're taking the precautions, right? Understand this, that you as a man in the school, or a righteous man, might be collateral damage in this situation. If the Lord is trying to kill 300 people on a flight, and you just happen to be the one righteous man in the flight, you just might be collateral damage. So the Lord can smite all the sinners that are on that flight with you. So always take that in that perspective. Let's get this, 2 minutes and we out.
Khan out on Khan. Proverbs chapter 7, verse 25.
Go ahead.
Let not thine heart decline to her ways.
Let me tell you something. Never let your heart decline to the ways of a woman, right? Samson's biggest problem is that he let his heart decline to her ways, to her needs. It was the same thing that happened with Adam. He let his heart decline to her ways and her needs, which will always, always, always get you in trouble. Go ahead.
Khan out on Khan. Go not astray in her paths.
Go ahead.
Verse 26.
Meaning, don't follow her lead. You know what I mean? Don't go astray in her path, right? And this is what Delilah wanted Samson to do, right? This is what the woman from Timnath wanted Samson to do. Go ahead.
Khan out on Khan. For she have cast down many wounded.
Go ahead. And this woman has wounded many men. Many of you brothers have come across a Delilah that has wounded you, that has made you weak, that's given you feeble hands, right? Go ahead.
Khan out on Khan. Many strong men have been slain by her.
And many strong men have been slain by her. The reason why the Samson got to a point where he had to give up his own life, where he had to lose his life, is because he's been slain by a woman. The woman that Samson was with put him in that position, right? But the ultimate purpose, despite Samson's lust, was that the Most High was going to deliver Israel. And it came at the cost of Samson's life. And guess what? The Most High is going to deliver black and Hispanic people today. And it might come at the cost of one of our lives or your life as a black or Hispanic man. Go ahead.
Count out of one kind. Her house is the way to hell.
And her house is the way to hell. Samson being in that chamber, going up into that her chamber room, was what led him to getting his eyes burnt out. Right? Him being made as a sport in the light of the Philistines. And Samson, you know what he prayed for? He prayed for one last thing. Here's what I'm going to say to finish off. Samson prayed that he would lose his life to see the fall of his enemies. And guess what? You know what I pray? I pray that I can lose my life to see the fall of my enemies so my people can be delivered. And with that, we're going to class. Tomorrow is the Brotherhood class. Not sure who's taking it. You taking Brotherhood tomorrow?
Unless somebody takes it from me.
All right. Anyways, tomorrow's the Brotherhood class. Tune in. Well, online, we don't have a physical location at this time. All our classes are online from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Tune in to IHB Boston, whether it's through Facebook. What other sources do we have?
Facebook, Periscope, and YouTube.
All right. And with that, we're gonna end this. We're gonna end the class. Shalom.
Shalom.